Hello there, friends. Before we jump into it, if you like what we do here on cPDH.guide, the YouTube, and you want to support us in a free way, because, you know, that's what friends do, hit that like, hit that subscribe, even share the damn thing. All right, on to the show. Okay, get some loosey-goosey, get it going, you know, do a little thing. See, this is great for me because, to all you people out there, it's like visiting with an old friend, with a dear pal. Of course, you should recognize this lovely gentleman before you. He's been on this channel a number of times previous to this for varying reasons, whether we're making some fool lightheartedness about casualness and what that actually looks like, and the intersection between that and, you know, high power, competitive, yada, yada, yada. That's a whole ass other video. Yeah, my man Lobbert. So I think the last time you were here, you're like, yeah, I'm never here for the right reasons. Well, Shazam.
Because I wanted to get on here originally. I was like, I want to win a tournament and get on there. And then you invited me on before that, and I was like, but okay, but I really wanted to win one. And it's always been interesting of like, I was, you know, like I told you, I was a competitive player before this, but I started playing casual PDH first. And just as like, I've seen my win percentage go, you know, up really far. I've studied, I've, you know, done everything like that, and people still being like, and you're just coming into competitive, aren't you? And I'm like, no, I'm serious about this, and I have been for like a long time.
Yeah, I mean, that was an honest mistake, and that I think most people may, and I think it's because you have somewhat of a cool, you know, calm temperament. Nobody expects you to be the feisty rebel that you actually are. So, yeah, man, we just got through Common Cause 4. My man here, Lobbert, took it down with Sphinx Summoner. Yep.
Sphinx Summoner is right. Yeah. And this is, I put it right on the top of my Sphinx Summoner page. I top 4'd Common Cause 2, Common Cause 3, and then I finally won Common Cause 4.
Ooh. Mental note to Clay later, check out who has the most top 4 appearances, and I bet your name is in a small group of people. Yeah.
I think so. Yeah. So I think I've got some authority now.
Well, my friend, hopefully, I'm not saying that the exposure on this channel is going to provide you that due comeuppance, but, you know, like, you made it, man. You made it. And I couldn't be more happy for you, actually, kind of seeing you. We played against each other in one game, watching you kind of go through the process, knowing you the way that I do. I was particularly paying attention because if you people out there in the world haven't watched Lobbert's setup during tournament time, he likes to focus one of the cameras like on his midsection, so that way you can see his cards from above and you can see his cards from in front. Just an honesty check, that sort of thing. And when he was getting close, when they like nuked his Ashnod's altar, you could kind of see him start to shake right then, because he knew that he had the thing in hand, and it was just so fun watching that that kind of all play out, because there was a counter spell tutored for in an earlier turn, and then another
this is in
player,
the finals.
Yeah, in the finals, and then another player made a play which may or may not, depending on your outlook, you know, out there in the world, may or may not have warranted the counter spelling of the spell, the removal spell. But it also turns out that would have been an opportune moment to hold on to it, because just the very next cycle, Lobbert puts in his recursion piece and gets it done.
He says, "Do I win?" Yeah,
gets it done. So yeah, man, let's in proper due course. I think we've talked previously about your Magic origins and that kind of stuff. Kind give me a little snippet of like about when you got into PDH, and then when you really started taking it seriously, which is indicated by the number of top 4s. It's been a minute. I think you've been on the warpath for probably 15, 16 months now playing competitive.
I would say since I think November was my first tournament. So that was 7 or 8 months ago. So how it worked was I had my own 60 card competitive podcast for I think it was like 2 years, and we were like #1 podcast. And then I took I needed to sort out my life. I got married. I bought a house. And then I was like, I want to play Magic again. I don't want to play competitive because listening to a bunch of competitive people can get annoying after 2 years, especially when you have a loud voice like I did. And one of I think it was like the second to last episode of that podcast, I made it, hey, this is PDH. And that's kind of like where I went with my casual play group of like, let's just play PDH together. And then I saw Brad, who was a fan of the podcast, start his own. And I was like, I'm going to listen to that. And I started becoming a fan, saw that he played on Saturdays, and I've got to join Brad. He's the coolest guy. So I started doing that. And it was about, I think that was in like August of 1 year, and then go a whole year of, I eventually started my own stream, not just like mooching off of Brad. And then so after a year of that, when I started my own, I was like, I want to differentiate, because I had some casual decks that were overperforming a lot, and I'm like, I want to stress test this. And so I started like having like, okay, well, let's do an every other week competitive casual. And it was that November that I entered with Raven Watcher into a tournament, and kind of went, you watched me scrub out of that, where we all died to a loyal subordinate that mulliganed to 4. I was like, well, maybe there's something better. And so I think that was actually earlier in the summer. And then it was November that I did my first Sphinx Summoner games. And as soon as I like put the deck together, I started recording my things, because I'm like, I've designed this to be competitive. It's combo based. I didn't even want to play combo. But like the whole format was just pushing me. I could feel it behind me, just play it. And I play in competitive EDH. I play Arkham Dagson from the Astrolabe. And that's this mono blue artifact tutor. I think the combo is like 7 moving parts or something like that I play. It's insane. I have my own whole primer and everything like that. You're never going to be able to find it, but it exists. Anyway, so I love artifact combos, and I was like, let's just, sell my soul to the devil. Let's play combo. And I just ended up loving the deck, and I got it was like in my first 4 games, I won 3 of them against decks that I like really respected. And then I started taking it tournaments, and I kept recording games, and my win rate, I think it's different on the database. I've tried to submit all my games. I don't know what the disparity is. I think there's a couple you had to drop for different reasons and anything like that.
Depending on who you played against, if that person was suspected of illicit activities, their games, they're still in the data, but they're scrubbed from the dashboard. So,
well, I won against someone who I won those games, so my win rate says 50% on my end.
And damn it. Right on. Yeah, so what was your inspiration for Sphinx? I know there's always this will for players to connect dots and stuff like that. We have had Sphinx Summoner decks come out over the last couple of years. Was anybody playing anything that looked inspired to you, or did you just like the commander and was like, to hell with those people, I'm going to do the thing that I do?
I noticed I think it was right after WOE. No, was it Wilds of Eldraine? I think so.
Mm.
Where Fanatical Offering was printed,
Mm.
I saw Fanatical Offering and I was like, they're just printing so many of these. Like Deadly Dispute was insane in 60 card. Deadly Dispute is still insane in PDH, and now I just have an extra one.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I did connect the dot of like, well, if I want to play a combo, then and it has to be artifacts, I would rather play the one that is infinite value. I was also playing a lot on the connoisseurs where edicts are just a way of life. Like there's going to be 1 to 2 edict players in almost every pod there. And I just was like, the retriever combo just doesn't care. Like you just loop them more. So it's like this value engine, and then also just like cranial plating being crazy. I have a couple decks that I've slotted cranial plating into. One is like a casual menace tribal deck that's
Casual,
kind of where
you monster.
It's Sonorous Howlbonder, and the commander, all it says is creatures you control with menace take an additional creature to block. And there's enough stuff that deals damage when you like deal damage to people. Like it generates treasures or whatever, that I started playing all the plunder effects in that deck. And I was just like, these are real. If I really tried something with these, it's got to work. And it just did.
Well, I mean, between what is it, Mephitic Drought, and even with the printing of that, like Ichor Wellspring, Ichor Wellspring, like other cards similar to that. Now you have this like fleshed out package, and even here recently, Eviscerators Insight, which is a plunder effect that doesn't give you anything in return. But it does have flashbacks, and now you have 2 plunders on 1. So now that's
and Tithing Blade just being another thing that.
Now you do play edicts a light. Like, is Tithing Blade the only edict that you play? Just one?
Yeah,
because it's an artifact.
I can make it feel like more if I need to, though.
Right on. So I guess you didn't say anything about inspiration, but it sounds like your love for that artifact-based mechanic definitely, plus the plunder revelation that you had, marrying those things together. Like, what were some of the first iterations? Was it more combo heavy, more mid-range heavy? Like,
I think it was a little bit more mid-range heavy. Like, I didn't have the RKO Mender in there, and that's because I started with Quirtz's list. And then I modified it from there. And by the time I was like, I'm ready to play this, I think it was like 60 cards different. Like, I swapped out all the lands for snow lands, so that's like a bunch. So that's kind of cheating. But the deck is, I think, significantly different now. I took out the Ghostly Flicker Peregrine Drake combo and stuff like that. I took out the Battered Golem combo, and then it was also what's the other one? Undercity Scrounger with Freed from the Real.
Yep. The one that puts a treasure into play. Yeah, the black.
I think that was creature. The primary combo in that deck, and I think after everything else, the real question that it came down to of like, why Sphinx Summoner, is I just sat there and asked myself, like, what is the best commander for this combo? And every time there's something new printed, I'm like, oh no, is it gonna like usurp my deck? Like that new one that lets you tutor things. It's like a 4 mana commander, it costs 3 life, and like anyway.
Yeah.
Mono black. That one I was like, oh, like I just played a game with that and I'm like, oh no, I'm safe. But it was, I just think this is the best commander to be doing this.
Well, I actually think it's high key brilliant that you eschewed some of the traditional combo lines. Most people would look at Ashnod's Altar and think that, oh, that's unfortunate. But relative to this particular deck, it's actually, pretty, as the kids would say, spicy, because of that tutor ability in the command zone. So, being able to get to that combo line rather, there's a certain built-in inevitability, and that inevitability factor is thing that people talk when people talk about Gretchen or they talk about Abdel, they talk specifically about this inevitability of being able to grind things out and get to point A and point B, and yet to be seen whether or not Sphinx Summoner is at the level of Abdel and Gretchen. But there's certain components I feel that are similar and make it relevant. So with that said, I think that your ability to pivot. What's the name of that stupid flyer 4-mana star?
Filigree Attendant.
God, I hate seeing that card.
It's so good.
It's like 4 mana, and it's like, okay, it's easily like a 7 or a 9 power or something for 4 mana flying. So like, if I'm playing against
toughness.
If I'm playing against that with a Crackling Drake, which I have, it's like, okay, how do I address this thing? And then when I'm on the other side of it with, and it's an artifact. Oh, and by the way, so it increases, yeah. So
yeah, that matters for Go for the Throat a lot too. People are like holding on to the Go for the Throat, and it's like, not me.
That doesn't work. So yeah, the fact that you have a few key pieces in there, you mentioned earlier, cranial plating. That's basically a mid-range creature. The creature we just mentioned,
Filigree Attendant.
Say it until it sticks into your mind. So yeah, the attendant, the plating. Do you have any other creatures similar to those two items that's kind of serve more that mid-range beater role?
No, it's really just cranial plating in that. You don't need a lot of redundancy in the deck.
Mm-hmm.
The way that the deck is developed the most is I didn't have as many tutors in the 99. Like I had the 2/3 cost tutors, and then I've gone from 2 to 7 now. In that I have the 3 2-cost transmute things, Merchant Scroll as the link between the 2 and 3, so I can go get Perplex. And that seems like a long way to go, but there was a turn, I think it was round 3, that I didn't win off of it, but I was stopped by a Pyroblast. Otherwise, I had exactly enough resources to go from Dimir Infiltrator all the way
through
to Ashnod's Altar, which is, 1, 2, 3. That's 3 tutors plus play the Ashnod's Altar plus play the Cost Producer. I think I had 18 mana. I had 18 mana sources, and then also the mana I got off of Ashnod's Altar.
So that's I'm glad you brought that point up. Sphinx Summoner cost 5.
Yeah.
And for a while, I don't know if that's necessarily the case anymore, but for a while, people were kind of looking down because Tatyova, the OG, is 5 mana, and Tatyova is really not in a good spot these days. But I would argue that's not necessarily because she costs 5 mana, although, by the time you cast her 3 times, that's kind of sucky. But like you never were really all that short on mana, being able to leverage the rocks that you play and all that stuff. You always seem like I wouldn't say flush, but you always seem like you were
I could always use more.
Yeah. But I mean, it never seemed like you were necessarily hurting. Like by comparison, Conrad plays a couple of rituals, but it's all 35 lands. So you're expecting to hit those lands with some sort of statistical, assurance to make sure that you can make the plays that you need to play in the time that you need to. So there's no real opportunity to accelerate that plan, beyond a temporary fashion. Whereas, how many mana rocks are you playing?
I don't sort it by that. Let's see. It's probably like 11, I think. Um, and then it depends on if you count my 2 cost reducers.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's one of the big like the coolest parts of the deck is when you can be like Ethereum Sculptor, rock, 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 and then everyone's just like, oh crap, and then they kind of just like usually they're like, but it's not a threat.
Mm-hmm.
They leave me alone after that. Like the biggest things I think the deck brings over, like I think Gretchen or Malcolm, if you wanted to make an argument for it, is like resiliency, and it's not the arc enemy.
Mm-hmm.
Like it takes the deck like 4 turns ish to set up, and it can hold up interaction if it needs to, but it doesn't want to. It just wants to ramp into ramp, and then draw and draw. And a lot of the time, since a lot of the draw spells are instant and 2 mana, it can choose what to do on an end step, which is really nice. But there's also combo lines. If instead of a normal cost reducer, you're using Golem Foundry, kill spells don't stop your combo. There's no, like, the only thing that'll stop it is artifact destruction for the Ashnod's Altar.
And everybody's playing an abundance of that these days.
There's people, I'm starting to change people's minds from saying that a braid, some people are like, a braid's a bad card. I'm changing people's minds. It's coming back.
Well, I mean, the well, specifically where braid is concerned, the modal capacity of it, you're making, like you said, making that artifact portion of it relevant, but it's not like the 3 damage to a creature was never not relevant.
Yeah.
It's just that, I don't know, people, well, and I've probably been to blame for some of this myself. I mean, I've played my fair share of a braid, and I've also cut my fair share of braids from decks. But to your point, it might be an opportunity to reconsider that, because of the fact, new cards are being printed every month, it seems like, and along with these oldie but goodies, the Sphinx Summoners, what have you, there's a higher degree of likelihood that they're just going to reprint or print something, via downshift into the format that will require this thing, and just automatically being set up for that. It kind of seems like a no-brainer. So, all right. So I normally don't talk about tournament experiences and stuff like that, but I'll make an exception here, and I'll tell you why. Largely, I feel, and you already know this from our previous interactions, kind of rehashing a tournament seems somewhat less interesting, because it's one of those things that, now hitting the highlights of, that seems kind of fun. But to that end, we had the hot topic for the last tournament, Common Cause 4, holy moly, it's been a 10-hour day, was draws.
That's something that I went into this tournament like militant about, almost. That's the word I would use, is at every tournament I've gone to, I've been annoyed when things go to time, and I see, certain games, certain players go into time all the time, and I just kind of like decided, like, I'm not going to have anything to do with that. If someone asks me what I think they should do, I started answering, I don't know, make a decision.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just, and then I was going into matches like, let's get this going. Like, and I'd sit there quietly. If someone attacked me, just be like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I was pretty grumpy going into the tournament. We got a brand new puppy, and it was just crying all night, and I had to like sleep next to the puppy on the ground. And so I was like not super happy that morning.
Yeah.
And so I just was like, I'm always afraid I'm going to come off like an a-hole, just because I'm not in a good mood usually when I'm in a tournament. I'm there to like do something.
Yeah. There, dance.
Yeah. And that's kind of, it gave me a little bit of clarity, strangely enough, of like, I would sit down for a game, and this I think is like one of the first times I've done this. Like, okay, I did it the first round, and I was like, I'm going to do that again. Of what's my goal this game? Is it to combo. Like you look at my hand. Game 1, I tried to go for it, but that got me arc enemied. Although I regret nothing. I was that close. But like game 2 and 3, I just thought I'm just gonna sit here and try to live. I'm gonna sit here and try to live, put up my defenses as much as possible. Like the game 2, we actually played together.
Mhm.
And I kind of just did like I watched all of the games before we spoke again, so that I could answer questions if there was anything relevant. And I started that game with that Basilica Screecher in hand that eventually became super relevant because you were on Sir Conrad, and then there was also a Loyal Apprentice, which is a mono red just burn deck. And I just waited and made myself seem like I
Mhm.
really wasn't a threat until I played that Filigree Attendant. But at that point, Hollow Marauder
Yeah.
had like stripped everyone's hands.
Speaking of
It
bad
was great.
attitudes, yeah, I had a bad attitude that game, which I feel sorry for, especially since all of that is our voices were actually streamed instead of commentators. They were streamed. I don't know. So I kind of lied to you in game. The reason why I had a bad attitude is because the player that interacted was already dead to the effects on board. So what you're doing is you're forcing me to create more actions which aren't going to save you anyway.
So
You know what I mean?
you're a little too conscientious of that.
Mhm.
I think. Like I think you skew so far in the like there
Responsible.
was a perfect example, yes, being responsible of like Sir Conrad has a trigger and like a single thing happens and you're like, I forgot it. So you're going in with I forgot it.
Mhm.
Where I think most people would say, oh, there's a Sir Conrad trigger,
Mhm.
and then kind of just like make like say it in a way that's like, oh,
Well,
you're gonna let me have this, right? But you've never done that. You've nice guyed your way out of I think like at least one win in a previous tournament, like with me in the game.
well, I mean,
Um,
to that end, I kind of the burden of like part of my roles and within the community is I've kind of accepted the fact that because you're right, there definitely are players out there that will work all of those angles and make sure they get every scrap that they can get. I used to play cDH, you know, it's not like I haven't done that before. It's just with the burden of my current, you know, relationship to the format, I somewhat have to be careful about how I'm being represented, you know, and by myself, you know. So, but no, the reason why I was like frankly pissed is because it's like I'm trying to work through the motions of doing something. Yes, that player has the opportunity, the right to interact. However, at that moment, it was fruitless. Now, what that does, because all I did was the reason why I attacked you with Conrad was to get you to trigger the. Had we went the opposite direction, then I would have been on the back foot. So intentionally getting you to trigger the either spell bomb to bounce Conrad put me on top of you in the stack, allowing me to resolve the chain that I had in my head. And it's just like this seemingly pointless interaction by another player, but you know, I know rules committee members get mad too.
yeah, and I don't know. I think that there's been the kind of the winds brewing about it, and I've already felt it a lot of like the biggest things I worry about in a tournament have been like time and it's been other players. I guess I kind of want to say of like I've caught players definitely saying I only have one removal spell. And then my turn comes around and I play my combo. There's a removal spell. Okay, I'm going to recur it and go for it again. Oh, there's the second removal spell. That's an outright lie. And so I'm like learning you're just allowed to lie. Like it's part of the game.
Oh yeah.
I definitely see them as arch enemies more, but they do fine and there's enough new blood in the community that I think more times than not, you'll be rewarded if you're able to leverage that.
So, on the subject of draws and stuff, for players listening, going into, I think the next tournament is Sanctuary 6, and that's like a week before RIW. So we got 2 tournaments back to back within 7 or 8 days. So people preparing for those events next month. Do you have any sage advice regarding? I mean, the answer is yes, you do. Regarding how they should, one, be on the lookout for players. I don't want to say attitudes, but like the way that their perspectives, the way they're approaching the game and seeking to do their particular thing in concert with the ever present component of time.
I think so. There's another thing that I did in this tournament where I kind of stopped caring a little. Like I was just kind of fed up, and I didn't want to think. So every time I went for the combo, I didn't count how much mana it was going to cost. The calculation for how much a Sphinx Summoner combo costs is like not fun to do. And so I just went for it. I just shoot from the hip. Like
If it
I think
happens,
I got it.
if it happens,
Yeah.
it happens. Yeah.
That's also a good thing about having recursion and having such a strong plan B. Like I could just kill someone any number of other ways. Like, just random little flyers. I could capitalize on. I could just play more removal than you have threats if I can get into a 1v1. Stuff like that. Anyway, so it was just to kind of not listen to anyone and just do what I thought was right. One of the things that they say in the intro to a Sanctuary tournament is you are allowed to stop other players from talking during your turn. And the most annoying moments to me was when some new player lets some enfranchised player guide them through a game, and then the enfranchised player wins because they guided them into a wall because they want to win.
Yeah.
Don't listen to other people. Like, unless they're like, whoa, we're gonna die if you do that. But like maybe give it like a second. But I guess that's speaking from I've played a ton of games. Like I'm playing 2 games every Monday, every other week. It's competitive, which is like not as much as some, but it's way more than most.
It's more than me. It's more than me recently. Yeah.
I get feelings of like, I just feel like this player over here, they have nothing in play, but that means they're open. There's a blocker over there. They're dangerous too. But even though you have nothing, for some reason I have a gut feeling that you're a threat, and I just go with that and tell other people like to just let me do my thing. Sphinx Summoner is also a deck that it wants to win on turn 6 or 7, but its win percentage gets higher as you go through a game because it doesn't run out of gas.
Have you done much study on the average? So it says wants to win on those turns, but have you looked at the particular data where you have one, or I guess it'd have to be where you have one and then seen like what is it actually 9-10 or is it 6-7?
Okay, let's see. My average game is turn 10. If we sort this to just be wins. Live math. So exciting. It's still turn 10. Win or loss, I guess it's still an average of turn 10. So maybe that negates that is evidence against what I was saying, but I feel more confident.
One other reason why I bring that up is because what it seems like to me when you look at the correlation between those numbers, that space in between, so you're ready as early as turn 6, whether or not you're attempting or waiting with some sort of backup or other sort of redundancy, like that just shows that there is the existence. Like if you were like ready on turn 6, but like 1 on turn 7, like on your average, that would tell me something different. But this is telling me that it's speaking to, well, in my mind anyway, speaking to that resilience that you were talking about, being able to enact the plan, fail, and then enact the plan again, which some actually would argue, and I've actually heard a number of competitive podcasts argue that, this ability to consistently win after a certain point, or attempt to win after a certain point, is like a hallmark of competitiveness for any particular deck. So if that's the case, my friend, you've hit that benchmark along with tournament champion. So
that is the dream for the deck, is like, I would love to have a deck that is like in that echelon of like meta. Like the other people are bringing this because they think it's their best chance of actually bringing home a win.
See, now I gotta look at that. I've been doing, bring this up, this big bright screen that I have. I've been doing some research privately behind the scenes, because there's a public facing data and there's a private facing, data. So if we assume this to be updated, which all of my formulas should be automatic. I'm looking for, come on, where are you, Sphinx Summoner? So you've got 3 top 4s. So this win would be, no, this win is the 3rd top 4.
Yeah. So yeah, I did Common Cause 2, 3, and then I won the 4th.
Okay, so yeah, this is accurate then. So, I mean, the only, as far as like winners, Gretchen is 1, 3, Third Path is 1, 2, Abdel Adrian Swordco Sailor is 1, 2, and then everybody else is 1, 1. So all you have to do is add one more win, and then you're in the pantheon of those
most
decks.
Successful. Yeah. Well, that's attainable. I could probably do that. I have been asking myself what I do next, though, because this deck is going to be hot in the terms of like stolen property is hot.
Mm-hmm.
It might not be like after you win a tournament, it's probably not the best thing to register again for that with that same exact list, because people are going to just arc enemy you out of the game. They're like, oh, this guy's powerful.
I was thinking,
Yeet.
I did think about that a little bit after your win, whether or not you would be able to, because that's a question that I asked myself in the very same way. Not that I've ever won a tournament, but I think about it from the perspective of repeat. That's why I threw Drake in there randomly, like last time, because I want people to kind of start guessing what it is that I'm playing, because I've had a problem with that historically. But for you, I think you would actually be fine. I don't think anybody would necessarily be gunning for you. Plus, let me caveat that by saying that you don't really go into it all cavalier either. So you're not publicly pumping it up. I mean, after this you might, but you're not publicly pumping it up as like, this is the best deck. This deck is awesome. It's spice.
Well, hold on. So if you go to my YouTube channel, I have a deck tech for this, and the first words are, "This is the best deck I've ever built." So,
well, right. Well, that's different. The best deck that I've ever built versus the best deck in the format. Those are two different claims. It's one thing for you to be, and you should be, proud of the monstrosity that you've erected up into the lightning rod. You should be proud of the fact that you've put this thing together. In fact, based on your description of it from before, it's unlike any Sphinx build that I've seen, and I've seen a couple over the past 3 years. So the fact that you were able to stitch this together in concert with interacting with this online competitive environment, which most people who do watch these things are enfranchised and interact with that sphere, but like it's tough out in this this spot.
So that's the toughest spot. Oh, the toughest thing is something I get. I think some of the most exposure to is I don't have a very solid group that comes and plays on my streams. Like it's getting there, but I play with a lot of random people. So like I play with people who are brand new. I play with in Sanctuary where it's I think that's it seems more homogenized because I think it's like this is competitive and whatever
Whatever that means.
It's just like they think that just Sanctuary meta is more competitive, but I brought a lot of the decks. Like I try on my streams to do one deck that is mine and then one deck that I consider a meta deck or someone else's deck. And I can't win with other people's decks. Especially the ones like Abdel, Malcolm, Dargo, the big three and the gatekeepers. I've put in like dozens of games, I think. Maybe less than that. I've put in quite a few games with them, and I think my win rate is still like 0 because they become such a huge threat that I just get cut out. Like I've always kind of had that problem where I become kind of an instant arc enemy. I don't know if it's my reputation or what, but it does shape what I play. And Sphinx Summoner is like a hyper resilient deck.
Mm.
It just game plans on game plans, and the game plans are built to recur. And
well, and I think that's ultimately why you would be safe doing a repeat because of the resiliency. Like, what's the likelihood? So answer me this: what's the likelihood every red deck's going to be playing a Braid from here on out?
I don't outright lose to it. I mean, honestly, it's not a Braid that like fully stops me. It's like Fairy Macabre.
Right.
Yeah.
And Fairy Macabre has seen a little bit of an uptick, but that's only because creature-based removal is really hot right now because they keep printing these damned flesh bag type creatures. So decks that care about creatures like Conrad and other that care about creatures, for whatever reason. So Macabre has seen a little bit of an uptick, but by and large, most of your removal is either going to be spell-based or relic. So, never
been stopped by a relic.
So yeah. Well, people for whatever reason are cutting those from their decks too. So I would say even though Macabre is up a little, the rest of it is down. So you get this overall downward trend.
Also, the decks that put Macabre in their deck usually don't show up with the same deck next tournament because they usually don't win. Like how many? I don't know. We just haven't seen. Have we even ever seen a deck with edicts in the list win?
Well, win a tournament?
Yeah.
No.
They've made finals a couple times, I know.
But in fairness, like not that edicts, it's the pinger problem, right? Pingers have been around forever. Edicts have been around forever, but they've only ever been in numbers sufficient to make them a strategy only recently. So I know that when I started like personally developing mono black, like mid-range and control, like over Christmas, we had some tools, but we've got like 2 more edicts since then. So we haven't.
Yeah.
So to that about like seeing the influx or the impact rather of that type of strategy on the larger tournament meta, I don't think we're still a couple 3 months away from seeing the actual impact of that, because people are playing with Legate Lanius, people are playing with Conrad, even some of the people playing Conrad. I think Aaron and I are the only ones that are really like whole hog on the edict plan. So everybody else is playing the edicts that they like, So yeah, once again,
But there's like just to speak to that, I've thought a lot about the edicts. It's kind of like you need like that critical mass. So like if there are more of those decks in the format, I think that they will do better because the both like Malcolm and Gretchen, Abdel's just right out. But Abdel and Malcolm and Gretchen. Malcolm does have Caddis that it is like a cheap thing that it can bring back, and it has the treasures to do so. Especially since the edicts usually come down like turn 4 or 5, something like that. And then Gretchen also has Gretchen. Like they have these 2-cost commanders that they can just keep replaying, and it's like this isn't even my mana engine. My mana engine is safe, but
you sounded just like those people.
the second, but it's true that they are resilient to that. They have a solution, but they have a solution to one. The second one really hurts. And I think getting a critical mass could make the difference.
Yeah. So, and to bolster that really quickly, I can't remember. I think it's like 9 edict effects at present. I think 3 of those, just off the top of my head, are spell based. The other 5 or 6 are creature based. To double up effectively on those spells, I'm playing like Raise Dead type of effects where I'm expending 1 mana to get something out of the yard to play for 3 mana, that sort of thing. So I'm attempting to try to double up. In fact, I'm playing 11 recursion effects in Conrad just to be able to build in that pseudo redundancy of having more and more of that particular card.
Yeah. But I don't care about those. I don't care about discard either. And I even was like, oh great, you have, like, I was playing against Brian one round and I was like, you have to play Legate Lanius or you're just out of this game. And I killed a Yavimaya Elder because it was the only creature other than Lumberknot that the Lumberknot player had. And I just did that of like, well, I have the mana right now. Here we go. Boop, got it. And I think it's one of the things that helped with that game a lot. And it's something I've suffered from, and we've also discussed at length, of you just can't choose who these go toward. And so your people that were going to be your allies that were going to help take me out are caught in the crossfire, and I'm making sure of that. All the while just laughing all the way to the bank with my, like, okay, you killed my Malcator's Watcher. Like,
well, I have noticed a lot of your creatures. I think it's only the Workshop Assistant and other light creatures like that actually have some sort of like dies effect. I think most of your creatures, either by virtue of an attack bonus or what have you, get their value on enter. So like whether or not it's what's the Sky Scanner, that little
Pilgrim's Eye.
Yeah, Pilgrim's Eye. There you go. So things like that, which can serve as a 1/1 blocker, but like
that's an illusion. There's 2 of those in the deck. There's Sky Scanner and Pilgrim's Eye, but I tutor for him with Sphinx Summoner when I gotta I gotta lose aggro. Well, yeah, I'm the Sky Scanner guy. No one cares, and then I have more cards. Malcator's Watcher is the cheaper one that if someone I see is like, oh, you're probably going to Edict, I'll just take a mana off of my Sky Scanner and play a Malcator's Watcher. Which is like it's weirdly like an incredible card in the deck. Like, are you familiar with it? 1/1 for a colorless and a blue, flying vigilance. When it dies, draw a card. And it's an artifact creature.
It's all the things that you want.
I know, with a cranial plating on that thing, like, unless it's got like first strike. I've played against Hive Cryptid a ton, and just when they were grinding Wilson games to try to refine that list, and I'm playing a flyover deck. One of the great parts about this is nothing that, like, Gretchen has flies, so I'll just attack them for 15 in the air. But Wilson has vigilance and is like a 30/30, but a cranial plating can turn it elsewhere, especially if you have vigilance of like, well, Lobbert could re-equip this cranial plating and then we trade, and Lobbert doesn't care about his creature. Um, which is another thing of like that deck. Playing a flyover deck against that Reach Vigilance Bear is that put it through its paces for sure.
That's another good I feel another good deck that could enter into the pantheon of like good decks. So
I've seriously considered like next tournament I might just play Wilson Far Traveler because I built that Alert Heatbunder deck that I talked about at length. I built Draven Watcher as like this is the next step on top of that, and then Hive and I had tons of discussions about how to build their deck, and it is just like the better version of both of my decks, and I hate that it is, but it just like is. But it's insane. I was like, oh, well, maybe just Team Lobbert stream is just going to be all on bears, and we're going to telepathically communicate who we're going to attack because we played against each other so much. Anyway, that might be what I do next. I'm considering it strongly.
Yeah, you heard it here, folks.
Yeah. If it happens.
And Clay's going to show up with a Sphinx Summoner deck. coached by Lobbert, rather. Shit, Robert.
Call him be by my middle name.
Yeah. Just punch drunk from 10-hour day today. So seems to be the going thing. So let's see. We know who you are. We know where you. Okay. This is part and parcel to the winner's interview package. So regarding the now tournament famous Sphinx Summoner, what is the next step? Where does the deck go? Or is it just absolutely freaking perfect the way that it is right now?
So I mean, obviously, so there's a couple of things that I've been considering. I'll just go over those.
Yeah.
In the tutor network that I've set up, there's not a 2-cost recursion spell other than Mirror Retriever. So if I do get stopped somehow, I could restart it again. And frequently the last cards on my hand are just like a couple of tutors. I could really use going for a 2-cost tutor. I have a lot of problems with the ones that exist, and I don't like playing recursion spells because they're dependent on the game having already progressed to me having something in the graveyard, and it makes me more dependent on the graveyard existing and not being hated out.
So you're playing. So what's the Shred Memory? Are you playing Shred Memory? You're playing Muddle the Mixture. Are you playing that Dimir Infiltrator guy?
Yep.
Okay, so that's 3.
And then there's Merchant Scroll that you can go get Muddle the Mixture. And really any of those 3 getting Merchant Scroll gets up to Perplex, so I can get to the 3-cost things. And then if I, from 3, I can also go to Trinket Mage and get like what's it called? Blood Fountain, which is another way to restart the combo. Anyway, it's things like Basilica Screecher being in the deck, like having unique effects that are one-ofs in those 2 and 3 slots make the deck way more robust because it's a toolbox. But so I've been considering adding another piece of, a 2-cost recursion spell for that toolbox. But then also I've considered cutting Pilgrim's Eye for something like Murmuring Mystic. It makes the deck less good in terms of like people want to kill a Murmuring Mystic. It's a good card, and I have like 24 instants and sorceries. If I think if the meta got really toxic or not toxic,
we're already there. No,
what's it? Like adversarial.
Yeah, there
like,
you go. There you go.
If it didn't want to let me combo, if there was just like graveyard hate everywhere, the reason Pilgrim's Eye is good is because the combo takes tons of mana, and it goes and finds a colored source, in addition to being like an artifact, which is incredibly useful. So that would cut down the number of artifact creatures in my graveyard, which is bad in terms of like if I have a mere retriever that needs to grab something. And things like Pilgrim's Eye are really important. Just as like little flying blockers and ways to hold a cranial plating. And it costs 1 less. And if I have a cost reducer, it's just a 2-cost Pilgrim's Eye that gets a land into hand. Anyway, but I'm mostly happy with it. I've recently cut Dispel, as I think I have like 2 1-cost interaction spells, and now I'm down to 1. That's congratulations for making it into the almost end of the video. An Achilles heel of this deck is, if I don't have 2 mana, I'm probably not doing anything to interact with you. It's possible. There's like Metallic Rebuke, which essentially costs 1, and then like Ghastly Demise, and we've got Snuff Out. But it's a very short list. But if it's 2 mana, then it's, you know, the dozen that I have in the deck.
Congratulations.
I've thought about discussing that's, I think, one of the biggest weaknesses of the deck, and I left that, I think, mostly out of the deck tech, because I put in a lot of like information about it that I'm like, this is going to make winning hard. That's what happened with Raven Watcher too, is giving people information on my deck really helped them beat me a lot.
Well, and to that end, I don't know. You might disagree, but there's even a light. We talked about responsibility earlier. I personally feel a light responsibility. Not that I've ever had a deck become so successful that it was oppressive and all that stuff, but like in the earlier iterations of the meta, walking people through, like, okay, this is where Tatiova is weak. This is where Weavers are weak. This is where Crackling Drake is weak. You know, raising that level of understanding, so that way you don't get frantic players, you know, interacting foolishly, you know, in different spaces, you know, which is, it's still going to happen, but, you know, I'm hopeful that it's not to the degree that it could be, you know, with that type of education out there. So, you know.
So that's something that happened last tournament too, was I went for retriever combo, and I got interacted with, and I could not combo, but I didn't bother doing the math, and I just kept kind of like going, and it was giving me a little bit of resources, but it scared another player, so they chimed in with another removal spell. And later they realized, like, oh, you weren't gonna infinite combo. You should have told me. I was like, I don't care. Like, yeah, someone else is gonna win. It's probably gonna happen either way or whatever. Like, getting mad at someone for not not using the person didn't get angry, of course, but I have seen people, the tensions get high when they're like, you should have done this.
Yeah, and
you haven't played enough with the random people. You're playing with I think you're playing with an insular pod, because when you say you should do this, that doesn't work with randos on the home base.
Yeah, I definitely like, I'll see people, they'll like put a spell on the stack, and then it's like this bevy of like, well, you know, don't do that. That's not, you know, you shouldn't do XYZ. Well, the spell is already there, you know, like, you've missed your opportunity 30 seconds ago to like, okay, I'm reading the wind, and I'm like, okay, you know, I see that you have this, you have open mana that's equivalent to that perceived action. This is what I'm about to do, and it's going to look scary, but I promise you I'm going to stop right here. Now, you can believe me or you cannot believe me.
I think people can believe Clay, but any other person that you don't know, like, you know, Mizu-san, if Mizu-san says they don't have it, I'm going to believe them. But if I don't know the person, I just kill him. Like, I don't trust anybody.
Yeah, get dead. Oh man, well, we're at an hour. I could sit here and Lobbert and I could sit here and talk for hours and hours and hours. I absolutely love this guy. The things he brings to the meta, to the format. One of the best storytellers, as it were, with his videos. I know he's not intentionally trying to tell a story with his videos, but he's got a very specific narrative prose that he leverages, and I think only Ankylosaur does that style. And even then, between the two of them, there's an ocean of difference where every like oh, Lobbert's great, oh, Ank is great. They're great, so like if you like that specific narrative scripted high production value, probably some of the highest production value available for cPDH or PDH related content, if you're into that kind of thing.
my wife went to school for technical writing, and I have her look at all of it every time, and I spend like a month on every video, so if you could watch it, I would really appreciate it. I will sell my soul for a view. I'll make my win rate lower if that means that people will come and watch. I'll tell you everything I know.
But outside of all of that, which the format is definitely, I say the format like we're some sort of cabal. The format is definitely glad to have that, but even above and beyond all of that, the production value, the video content, yada yada, Lobbert's a solid guy. Like brings a certain authenticity to his efforts, and quite frankly, sometimes that feels like it's in short supply.
Oh, you just got to know where to look.
So, to that, dude,
you've already listened to me talk for like an hour, so yeah, you better don't.
Big congrats. Like, I know, was it, we did our video in February. Was that when it was? So
I think it was about then.
So only a few short months. Here you are. Big congrats. Like, well deserved, having played against you and watched that last round. I don't know how long the Twitch. This is one thing I hate about Twitch. I don't know how long the Twitch VODs will be up, but like if while it's still available, go to One More Game Chris's Twitch channel and watch those last like 2 or 3 minutes, and you can start to see the build up in the body language.
Yeah. I do want to say in that last thing, there was I did have a lengthy judge call.
Yep.
And I do like that player. I did not suspect had anything wrong or like was doing anything, deceptive or anything like that. But I wasn't gonna be able to sleep at night unless I called a judge. And we've talked since, and they were like, "I'm so sorry. I'm embarrassed." And I was just like, "That's fine. I just gotta call a judge, and I'm really sorry." And they were super cool about it.
Ben's a great guy. Yeah. Ben is solid.
It's great.
So yeah, man. Any last little tidbits or what have you? Where can they find you? Obviously, go look for Lobbert. Look for the helmet.
I do want to say, even though I did win this time, what do you call it? Little Andy had just as good of a record as I did. I think we both won 2 games that day, and then we both drew a game. So like it's just I would encourage everyone to sign up and just play. You could win. It's not just a certain type of person or type of deck that can win. I plan on bringing something weird very soon. I don't know what. It might be to RIW, it might be to Sanctuary, but I think that's hopefully where the format is headed, is weirder stuff.
No,
to circle back on our last topic.
But I mean, to that specifically, yes, sign up, play. Last year, 2023 was probably dominated by certain personalities in the format. Since we've turned the corner in 2024, it's been, forgive the term, seemingly a bunch of randos, comparatively. So like very distinct, very disparate, spread out group of people are actually attending these things and putting up good performances. So any given Sunday, is that the term? Except for it's usually on a Saturday.
Yeah.
So sign up, do the damn thing. All right.
Yeah, that's what I'd like to point more people there, and then I'm sure they'll watch my thing. It's a given. Everyone's gonna watch me.
All right, my man.
Anyway,
let's wrap it up. I'll put a link to all of Lobbert's stuff in the bottom here. Not that just by virtue of watching this video and us whispering his name out into the ether, it'll probably show up in your recommendeds, that lucky bastard.
Yeah, probably.
Sweet. All right, brother.
Have a good one.